Tatapi lokapyaya sambhavaya Samayaya tanyanu Ladies. Nalepyate vasya janma karmava Nanama rupe gunadoshe bhava Tatapi lokapyaya sambhavaya Samayaya tanyanukalam vichyate. I won't go through the word for word, we did that yesterday. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material birth, activities, name, form, qualities, or faults. To fulfill the purpose for which this material world is created and destroyed, he comes in the form of a human being, like Lord Rama or Lord Krishna, by his original internal potency. He has immense potency, and in various forms, all free from material contamination, he acts wonderfully. He is therefore the Supreme Brahman. I offer my respects unto him. Ishaya, Supreme Brahmane, Supreme Brahman. So we read about half of the purport, maybe a little bit more yesterday, I don't know. And we're going to finish off the purport to this verse today, if Krishna wills. Yesterday we talked a little bit about the transcendental nature of Krishna's form. We read a little bit from Bhagavad Gita, some verses related to these topics. We discussed also the inconceivability of Krishna's name, form, pastimes, qualities, etc., as being a necessary acceptance for the conditioned soul. Of course, there's an element of conceivability, and there's an element of acceptance, but the capacity to grasp the entirety or the full nature of the Supreme Lord does not lie, or is not possible for a conditioned soul. Otherwise we would have the same cognizance as the Supreme Lord. We can accept that nothing is impossible for the Supreme Lord. Nothing. Prabhupada said impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. The same could apply to many other facets of the Lord's energies, no doubt. But ultimately it's the complete free will of the Supreme Lord. Everything is resting on him. Even this creation of the Lord, the phenomenal world which we try to measure, is beyond our capacity to grasp. We may have a little idea of some localized aspects, but the entirety of it, what to speak of the laws of karma, are not within the capacity of an ordinary living entity. If the Lord, of course, gives that capacity, like Lord Brahma, for instance, although he may be a jiva tattva, a living entity of the marginal nature, the Lord himself invests his own potencies in Lord Brahma to enable him the capacity to perform the universal duty which he has. Same applies to any of the demigods, come to that. Same applies to every living being in one sense, although our capacity and so on is very small. Potentially we have the ability to act according to the inspiration of the Lord, reciprocating with our desire. Of course, we have our karma, which restricts or conditions our activities and the way we think, our gross and subtle bodies. And we also heard yesterday, by hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, how this helps to rectify our, restricted perception, our conditioned perception of the world, and so on. Our judgmentalism based upon our own very small or petty perception. Everyone's seeing things with themselves in the center. And the day before we were hearing more about how to see things with Krishna in the center, at least theoretically. So today we'll read the rest of the purport, and how Krishna comes, well, yesterday we discussed that, how Krishna comes into this world to kill these limited, or let's say, self-centered perceptions, conclusions that we have, speculations that we have, based upon our limited capacity, our limited intellect, our limited sense perception, and so on. So we'll take it up here in the middle of purport. And we did read this line yesterday, I think, or maybe we didn't. But we'll take it up there, the word beginning, although. It's more or less exactly halfway through the purport. Although he, referring to the Supreme Lord, appears to act within the modes of material nature, he is nirguna, above the modes of nature. If we look, I don't know the verse number, let's see if we can find it. If we look in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, many places we can find verses to describe this transcendental nature of Godhead. Good morning. Here's the famous verse, text number 11 in the 9th chapter. Avajananti mamudha. I think some of you know this verse. Manushim tanamashritam parambhavam najananto mamabhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. This knowing, as we read yesterday, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yogati Tattvataha, that one who knows this transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not take birth again. He's able. Knowing means we accept his transcendental nature, and whatever is revealed to us, of course, so be it, either by scriptural injunction or through hearing or through some internal realization, but to accepting that transcendental nature, the unlimited capacity, the inconceivability of Godhead, whose material form is limited, is measurable, controlled by time. Krishna is not controlled by his energies. The nature of God, as the previous verse explained, the material energy is one of his energies, working under his direction. It's not that he's under the control of material nature like ordinary people think, and ordinary people are under the control of the material nature. They think they're the controllers, but actually they're controlled by the material energy. Krishna's not. It's his energy. He controls it. When he appears in this material world, he may act in such a way as it may look. Maybe see like a teacher, maybe teaching the students ABC, but he's not learning ABC. And of course, he's limited also, but basically speaking, he's the teacher of ABC. He's not the learner. So Krishna is the order supplier, he's the controller, he's the maintainer, he's the provider of everything. And he's not in any way controlled by the laws of nature, which are made by him anyway. He's a lawgiver. In the material sense of course, the leaders in society are supposed to follow the law also. Generally, Krishna does, but he's not obligated. He makes the law. We think this is moral and this is immoral, but that isn't established. Those principles are, in one sense, established by Krishna. Dhammam tu shakshad bhagavat panitam. Religious principles are established by the Supreme Lord. No one else can establish them. We try to impose that upon the Lord as if we're the controllers of the law. Like the king makes the laws, and he can also, if he wants, he can change them and break them as needed. He's above. Sometimes it's said the king is above the law. He's the lawmaker. He's the one who decides what's right and wrong. Perhaps it's not the way it is now. And it's not entirely like that. It's based upon laws of Shastra, Manu, and so on. But in principle, it's like that. So he's not bound up by the law. So Krishna is like that, although he appears. And sometimes they say the example is given: the king may visit a prison house. But does it mean he's a prisoner? He's walking around in the same building, going through the same doors. That's in some ways similar to the prisoner. It doesn't make him a prisoner. He's come for another purpose. Similarly, when the Lord comes to this world, he doesn't come with the same purpose that we have in mind, exactly. Something is related. He's coming here for the fulfillment of another aspect of his will, to help to deliver, awaken the conditioned souls. We come here for our own enjoyment, but enjoyment is common, the nature of every living entity, to anandamaya besat, to want to be pleasure-seeking, happy. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. And people deride me. They deride him when he descends in the human form. We see from even the pastimes we hear from the Bhagavatam, the Krishna book, etc. In the case of Krishna in the Krishna book, we see how so many, particularly Kamsa, Shishupal, Jarasandha, Shalva, and Pondraka, so many of them deride Krishna, criticizing him, trying to bring him down, dismiss him, kill him. The nature of demoniac, envious, proud mentality. It pervades our modern thought patterns in many cases, even sometimes not in its root, of course, but sometimes in limited understandings, even the denial of God having a name, the denial that he can have form, that he has multiple, unlimited pastimes. He's reduced to almost like a mechanistic kind of controller who's controlled by that which he's controlled by, that which he's supposed to be controlling. A very mechanistic perception of a Godhead, or even less. He doesn't have any position at all, in fact, as such. He's just, as we heard yesterday, he's just energy beyond the material cosmos. But this is all, you can say, influenced by this enviousness to some degree or another, and maybe lack of knowledge. But that type of doctrine is influenced by the unwillingness of the living entity at some point to accept the unlimited, inconceivable nature of Godhead. Krishna can perform, and it's a long, long purport to this verse. He can perform unlimited activities. It's not just that he lives forever and his body is transcendental. He has unlimited capacities. He can transform the material energy into spiritual energy just by will. It is actually spiritual energy. It's just perceived differently. Arranged in such a way that we perceive it as a separated energy of the Lord. And we see ourselves as the enjoyer of that separate energy, like a child sees that this is my toy, this is my house, this is my dog. In one sense, you can understand that, of course. But ultimately, it's not really the child's dog, house, car, whatever. It belongs to the parents. They're providing it for the child. It's their energy in one sense. Ultimately, Krishna's energy. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted. Those who deride Krishna, those who don't accept his transcendental nature, they're attracted by demonic and atheistic views, as we've just heard. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, even for fruit of activities and their culture of knowledge, are all defeated. But those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. There are many similar verses we speak of in the Bhagavatam. There are so many. We won't go there. We'll read the purport, which we haven't read yet. Although he appears to act within the modes of material nature, he is nirguna, above the modes of nature. His name is not material, otherwise how could one get liberation by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There's a famous verse, I think in the Puranas, I believe, maybe quoted in Nectar Devotion, related to the Lord being non-different to his holy name. And there are several verses. One very famous one. You may start Namachintamani. Namachintamani Krishna. How's it go? Oh, I just slipped my mind. Binatvan Namanamino is the line that the name and the named are non-different. In the material world, Chaitanya Rasa Vigrahams. In the material world, a name and the named are different. If you say water, of course it may evoke someone bringing water, but in of itself it is different to water. In different languages it is not called water. It has different addresses. So there's a difference there between the name and the object itself. If you say water, if you're living in China and you say, can you please bring me some water? Nothing will happen. It's relative. It only refers in English. A relationship is there in English. It's not there in other languages. If you say water, they may know English, but if they don't know the English language, then no one's going to bring you water. They won't know what you want. You may gesture in other ways, but in principle it's relative. Whereas in the spiritual realm, the named and the name are non-different. They're absolute. They're not relative. So Krishna, what's the famous verse that we sometimes speak? Many temples they chant every day, the Sikshastakam. What's that second verse? Nam Nama Karibhavada Nija Sarva Shaktis. What is the meaning? Pardon? In your transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental potencies or energies. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting these holy names. No hard and fast rules. Chanting. Everything's there in the holy names, these unlimited names. like Krishna and Govinda, unlimited names. There's another nature of God. How can he have unlimited names? People put a limitation on him. No, he's only like this. I suppose a child does that in terms of its relationship with the world also. Puts these limitations, can't see outside of this small bubble. And most conditioned souls are like spiritual, like or childlike. So we put these limitations here. God cannot. How can he have unlimited names? How can he appear in unlimited ways? He can appear, if he's God, he can do anything he likes. That's the nature of God. How can he expand like that? This is ridiculous. This is proof that he's not God. People say all kinds of things because they try to measure him. Limited. And for children, you give some limited understanding to help them to gradually progress towards maturity. So it's limiting God. We all like to limit him in this way. We don't say we like, but we do. I have this tendency in doubting. Oh God, this is ridiculous. We heard yesterday about the Bhagavad Gita. This is ridiculous. How could he speak that in 15 to 30 minutes? Not possible. I can't do it. Impossible. Frog in the well philosophy, probably call it. Scientists, they have this. If at all they include the concept of God in their teachings, then they just dismiss it as some kind of impossible mythology of some kind. And people in general, knowingly or unknowingly, more or less do that too. But to accept this unlimited, everlasting, inconceivable nature of God takes humility. That's why in the list we read the day before, the list of knowledge, the primary item of knowledge was humility. Without this humility of accepting, I don't know, it remains ever mystery. Interesting. When we accept we don't know, that's the beginning of knowing. And we think we can work it out ourselves, and that's the end of knowledge. So the name, Krishna's invested all of his transcendental energies in holy name. Only by chanting the holy name one can attain more perfection. Unfortunately, we have no taste for chanting. And that's another subject, isn't it? Because of offenses, what Chaitanya says. Because of offenses, I have no taste. Lack of taste for chanting. Lack of taste for chanting isn't just like, I enjoy it. It also, literally, it means that our chanting is offensive. Our relationship with the holy name is not favorable. Maybe a little bit, but not very much. If we really knew, if we really understood that Krishna was fully manifested in the form of Nam Prabhu, especially in Kali Yuga, Kali Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar, that Krishna appears in this age, in this form, Nama Rupa. If we fully were aware of that, we wouldn't mess around while chanting Hare Krishna. The next verse in Bhagavad Gita, Satatam Kityanta Mamitam Taschadudavata. The nature of those who are not bewildered, those who have accepted the transcendental nature of God, is that always chanting is glorious. They never stop. It is great, it's wonderful. The words of chanting, people are chanting, is amazing. But it's mechanical in the sense it's restricted, it's ritual, not ritualistic, it's regulated, it's dominated by scriptural injunctions or other similar kind of regulations. But the pure devotees, they perpetually means not stopping, perpetually worship him with devotion. That's all they have, that's all they do. They don't have any stopping in their service. The hoitikia patiyata, unstopping. We read on. The names of the Lord, like Ram and Krishna, are non-different from the person Ram and Krishna, which we just briefly mentioned. Thus, by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one constantly associates with Ram and Krishna. The meaning of absolute is not, we did discuss yesterday that a mother's picture of her child, how for her that picture is more or less non-different from her child because of the relationship is very strong. It's not a distant one. It's a very binding and strong relationship. Completely absorbs her. And for those who are in this material of deity worship, pictures of Krishna, various factors, holy places, which remind one of Krishna and Ram, are essential. They're essential. We're not on our platform, Satatam Kirtiyantamam, always remembering Krishna. We're following the process, which leads to that state, a permanent state, that absolute state of consciousness. We're trying to follow the process that leads to it, the process which pleases Krishna, so that he removes the coverings of the living entity and reveals himself. Thus, by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one constantly associates with Brahman Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore becomes liberated. By association we become conditioned, by association we become delivered. A practical example is Ujjainil, who always remained transcendental to his activities simply by chanting the name Narayan. Now that's interesting. What's interesting about that? Anything interesting about that? Pardon? Ajamil? Somebody keeps making a noise when you're speaking, I can't hear you. Ajamil? Yeah. He was performing sinful activities. He was attached to sinful activities, very attached. But by good fortune, he was chanting the name of his son regularly. Narayan, Narayan, come here. Where are you, Narayan? Narayan, please bring my shoes, whatever. He was always thinking of his son, chanting his name, calling his name, not thinking in terms of this is the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it was good fortune his son was named Narayan. There's a long story, is there, in the Puranas of how that came to be. But he named his son Narayan. And this was his saving grace. Now, this is pretty much, you can say, interesting. Saving grace. There are many people who are engaged in very sinful activity, but they're chanting the names of Ram, of Hari, and so on. Not with the intention of becoming freed from sinful reactions. They don't know. And in this way, they carry on. They don't have an attraction for Krishna. You can say they're offenses, but they keep chanting the name Ram, Hari, and so on. And you see this is in many countries, the name Ram is appearing in the language, isn't it? I don't know, in English, think of some words that contain the name Rama. Yes, John. Pardon? Panorama. Panorama is a good one. It's a common one. It's not a new invention. It's quite a traditional word. Panorama. Very, very good view or something. What else? Yes.
There's a product that came out that was for cleaning the house, and it was called the Air Ram.
The what?
Hoover, and it had the name Ram in it. It was,
the Eye of Ram?
Air Ram. Yeah.
Air? Air. Air of Ram. Air of Ram.
Yeah. So
yeah.
We're constantly seeing this Ram.
Rama. We get RAM is very common. But REMA is also very common. There's so many words that contain it. Come on.
Cinerama,
Cinerama, Autorama, Laundorama, big chain store, Comforama, Ramada Hotel. There's so many others. Sexorama, they have Sexorama in Australia. Huh? Ramadan, it's a whole religious. No, it's not, but the main one, which I was referring to. The whole religion has the name Rama regularly in its vocabulary. The name Hari is also very common in many language vocabulary. In Swahili, Harambe is the national slogan. It means let's come together, unite together, work together. Harambe. It's a special mercy, you could say. Unknowingly. It's not that they become, it doesn't awaken prema, but it helps to release the living entities of various karmic reactions, giving them a chance. In the case of Ajamil, of course, he was so attached to his son at the time of death, he was calling, Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. And he was, in his childhood, in his youth, of course, he was. He wasn't a pure devotee, but he was practicing under his father's direction, devotional service. So the seeds were there. Hare Krishna. You want some tissues? You okay? I won't say the usual response to that because it has a history which is not so, let's say, favorable. If this is true of a Jajamayo, what is to be said of the Supreme Lord? I don't know what we missed something there, I think. Yeah, here. A practical example is Ajamil, who always remained transcendental, it says here, to his activities simply by chanting the name Narayan. Transcendental, in one sense, I mean, he was attached to his activities. He wasn't thinking, otherwise. But he was transcendental in the sense he was constantly releasing himself from the reactions of those activities as a form of liberation. It's not the liberation that devotee aspires for exactly, but it is one form of liberation. Just like the Supreme Lord, he's more than that. When the Lord comes to the material world, he does not become a product of matter, which we discussed a little bit earlier on. He creates matter, but he's not a product of it. He's the source of it. This is confirmed throughout Bhagavad Gita, the verses we've already mentioned. Karma Karma and Jananti Mamudha. Therefore, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ram or Krishna, descends to act transcendently for our benefit, we should not consider him an ordinary human being. When the Lord comes, he does so on the basis of his spiritual potency, Sambhavam Yat Mayaya. So the verse we read the other day or yesterday from the 4th chapter, maybe text number 6 or something. Ram and Krishna. We should not consider him an ordinary human being. When the Lord comes, he does so on the basis of his own spiritual potency, because he is not forced to come by the material energy. He's always transcendental. He comes by his complete free will, his own choice. And Prabhupada mentioned why yesterday, to deliver the conditioned souls, to establish religious principles and so on. Material names and forms are contaminated, but spiritual name and spiritual forms are transcendental. This is the result of at the end of the purport, of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, that it enables next number 10 tomorrow, enables the living entities to transcend. That's why last night we were hearing the verse of the Gopis in the Gopi Gita, Lord Chaitanya Tavatam Tam Tapta Jivanam Kamavitam Kama Shapaham, how this messages of Godhead are the only relief for those suffering in this material world, because they They connect us, and they purify us from our contaminated state of consciousness. And they attract Krishna's attention. So what degree that is, of course, propagated, one has to use a little common sense, but the principle is there, some or another, to try to connect people with Krishna. So when we chant the holy names in public, we don't generally talk very much about the transcendental nature of Godhead because people can't digest that. They don't accept it, they find it difficult. But they may be able to chant Hare Krishna, unknowing, like Ajamil, unknowingly chanting the holy name. You say something, it'll make you happy, it's really good, it helps to bring unity amongst us, it's really fun. Come on, relax, it makes you very peaceful, you can forget about all your woes. Well, different, strange, roundabout way devotees say, these are not objective goals, but they may be enticing people to chant. And you try to get them to chant the holy name somehow or another. Somehow to get them to chant. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. But they're doing it. We were on Harinam in New York a couple of days ago, maybe I mentioned it, but those kids just spontaneously joined us and started dancing and singing very loudly with us. And their contact with Hare Krishna was through some punk rock bands, what they called, Shelter or something, and some other names they had, different names of these groups, 108, I don't know, 3 or 4 different groups were there. A devotee was with me, one disciple, he's himself a musician, he knows all these things. Professional, his own band and so on. And they were so happy, and they were so enthusiastic to chant. Actually, they knew that these musicians were related to big young kids, to the Hare Krishnas. So different ways people may chant Hare Krishna. Some or another get them to chant. But then of course we want to go a bit further, not just want to get free from sinful reactions or just not even liberated or something. We want to ultimately develop prema, love of God. And that's just the beginning. Chanting has to be completely pure, with the right attitude, right motivation. That's where that's where rules and regulations, you could say, come in. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy name. But if you want to advance in Krishna consciousness, anyone can chant. That's good. You get liberated, you get the chance slowly. It takes a long time that way, normally. With divine mercy, you may remember Krishna at the time of death, but you take that for granted. You have to do our homework and follow the principle, the practice, under the direction of the pure devotees of the Lord. We practice devotional service in order to purify our relationship with the holy name, with Krishna. And step by step, as you know, most of you here are familiar with the path of devotional service, how it grows from one stage to another. Ultimately, of course, entering into the spiritual world and eventually awakening prema, pure love of God. So the more we're pure in our relationship with the holy name, the quicker that will happen. The more we take this association seriously. And if we could always remember that the name is Krishna, how much, if we're interested in Krishna consciousness, seriously interested, then we would probably be a little bit more attentive. Even when an ordinary person who has a position in this world, we would say not ordinary from a material point of view, but if the King of England, depending on your relationship, of course, but if the King of England, if suddenly you got a phone call, Prabhupada Pran gets a phone call today. Hello, is that the temple president of the Karuna Bhavan? This is King Charles on the phone here. I want to visit your temple today. And what time is lunch? Because he's unlikely to do that, but just imagine if he were. What would you do, Prabhupada Pran Prabhu? What would you do? And you'd probably do a few other things too. You know, you do everything you could to, you know, impress him in one sense. Pardon? Huh? Smell the new paint, yeah, make sure there's lots of new paint everywhere. All the lawns are mowed and, you know, everything's in order, that the windmills are working and everything else. And the alpacas don't burp in his face or whatever they do. He might not mind that, that's a natural thing. You get everything in order as quickly as you could. And it was like that when Prabhupada would come. You know, everything was out of whack. And the grass was not cut. The garbage was, you know, not properly ordered, organized. Branches were all over the place. It was regularly like that at the manor when Prabhupada would come. I mean, 2 days, 3 days, everyone would be working day and night getting it all ready. And, you know, everything looked spick and span, as you say. There'd be nice fresh paint on the walls, different things like that. That's kind of one of the purposes, in the sense of the Lord coming and the devotees coming, is to try to help us to wake up, get things in order. But again, it's to prepare us so at the time of death, we're not like, you may not get a warning, by the way. Maharaj had 7 days warning, but we may not get a warning. And even if we do, we may not be ready to heed it. We're still attached to this material body, and we don't take advantage of that opportunity as much as we could. We should try to take advantage while we're a little bit conscious, a little bit healthy. And practice that. We heard the other day, practicing chanting the mantra like Gajendra did. Yeah. Wouldn't it be amazing? You wouldn't have, if King Charles were to walk in, now you might, because you have no respect for him whatsoever. You might be completely disrespectful. But in normal cases, even if you are, you won't do that normally. Even if it's your enemy, you still kind of receive them with some, you know, if a dignitary is coming, maybe inimical, you know, maybe the opposition or whatever, but you still may show them respect, you know, in that sense, because they're an important person, relatively important. So you have everything ready, you know, oh, there's a bus, if you want, you can come. Oh, you're arriving in Glasgow Airport, okay, well, there's a bus you can catch. You know, if you walk 1 kilometre, you can get a cheap bus from the corner stop, and if you get off and, you know, change somewhere, and then Hamilton or something, catch a bus to Leadenhall, you walk up the hill, you know, you don't do that either. You don't turn up at the airport in the broken down, old beaten up Sankirtan van or something, whatever you've got. You know, you may rent or hire a car if you don't have one, which is related to their position. And you certainly don't just, okay, you want something to eat. Is there any leftovers in the fridge, you know? Some cold rice and dough. You know, we don't heat up prasadam. It's an offense to heat it up. So here's some, you're lucky, here's some cold rice and cold dal. You know, you know, go in the toilet, there's no toilet paper, and, you know, the person before never flushed it. Mess everywhere. You can't open the door, lock yourself in. The door doesn't open when you try to get out. You know, you make sure everything's in order. Important person, King of England. But what to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And when he's there, he's present. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And what are we doing? We're thinking of something else. We're doing something else. We're thinking of something else. If the King was here, you'll be, especially those who are aware, will be constantly thinking, what next? What next? Okay, come, clean that up, get that out of the way. The King's coming. You'll be constantly thinking of the King's, you know, pleasure, if you want to call it that, or maybe want to impress him. Be constantly thinking in relationship with him, at least. You don't serve him on a plastic plate with a plastic spoon. You know? Isn't it? Yeah. I'm not saying you do or don't, but if you really want, in a normal situation, you wouldn't do that. You're giving the best. You're giving the best you can. For whatever reason. You're giving the best you can. He's an important man. He's a king. He should be given the best. Brothers and Krishna should be given the best. We should give our best time to chanting Hare Krishna. No, I don't do that properly, I know. But I'm just trying to remind myself. Sometimes it's like, mostly I'm chanting in the middle of the night. For various reasons. We should try to give our best time, focus on the Lord. He's personally present. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's the end of that, isn't it? That's all we can manage. Enough. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh boy, that was too much. Oh God. How much have we got? How long have we got to carry on this chanting? 16 rounds? Oh no. I could be doing other things. This is our most important business. Chanting the holy name of Krishna. This is the Lord's personally come in this form. Other forms too, but this is the primary way the Lord has appeared in Kali Yuga. And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj says, this chanting of the holy name is the only infallible means of success. No other method. The only, he states that these other sadhanas do not help us to develop an attraction for chanting. They are impediments on the path of devotion. Impediments. He uses the word impediment. Holy name, the chanting of the holy name is the emperor of all sadhanas. It's not the king, he says emperor. King of kings. Every sadhana is a king. But this is the emperor of all sadhana. And Lord Chaitanya's special mercy, that through the performance of chanting the holy name congregationally, this is the means of the awakening of prema. The Lord tasted prema along with the congregational chanting of the holy name. And he's given this for everyone. He's come to give us this opportunity. He's appeared in this form, Nam-rupa, in order to give what was never given before. We heard last night, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema. This form of Lord Chaitanya, no other form is giving this access. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare, Hare, good boy. Yes, say. My child will lead us. What do you think about when you chant Hare Krishna? We'll just say, oh, Krishna. But maybe. Anything else?
Please engage me in your service.
Pardon?
Please engage me in your service.
Be engaged. So there's a relationship there. Kind of you could say a practical, probably gave a practical understanding of our relationship with the holy name. Please engage me in your service. But what do you think of that when you're chanting? I don't know. When we're chanting japa, I don't know what you think about. Sometimes it's not always so good. Sometimes we're almost mindless. Various forms of inattention are very prominent. Various ones. Sometimes they're more related, more transcendental. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're a little bit distanced from our goal. Sometimes they're mundane, material thoughts or offensive thoughts come into our hearts when we chant. Sometimes. Maybe more than sometimes. But we try to at least remember that this is our chance to associate with Radha and Krishna. Every moment is a chance, but this is specifically allotted time for associating with Radha and Krishna. Take advantage of it as much as we can. Hare Krishna. You okay? Good. Late night last night, or early morning, we should say, or late morning, in fact. Quite a late morning this morning. Would anyone like to say anything? Alan?
When we're chanting, if while we're chanting, we're thinking of ways in which we can serve the Lord and devotees, is that still inattentive, or is that something that is okay while chanting? If we're focused on various ways in which we can serve or improve our service, or should we just be listening purely to the name?
This is a stage which is very common, especially those devotees who are in positions of management. Excuse me, I'll pull my leg out here. Let's give another example. You're cooking. You're cooking for the Lord. What are you thinking about? You're focused on the cooking, aren't you? You're not thinking of, being on the street doing Sankirtan or, cleaning the toilets. You might be, but you should really be focused on, because you're cooking for Krishna, you really should be focused on thoroughly on cooking for Krishna, making the offering nice, on time, properly. Daily worship, same thing. When you're on the altar offering arti, what are you thinking of? You're thinking of your, wife, or kids, or, getting a new car. What are you thinking of when you're on the altar? You should be focused on what you're doing. So in devotional service, that's what we should be doing. However, we know that that's easier said than done. Probably hardest is in japa. I say cooking is one of the most meditative program services in many ways. It really does absorb you. Some of us say, why is so much, why on time, why don't we just take it easy? Take it easy, you'll find your mind will start wandering, you'll get lazy and so many things. So this is to help us to focus on our sadhya, on our goal to for serving Krishna. We're already engaged in service of Krishna. So chanting is also devotional service. Prabhupada said one time that because we're not so advanced, he has to think of many things to give us to do, because we can't simply chant Hare Krishna. That is service itself. Most pleasing service in one way. Other things that must be done also. We haven't got the right attitude, so they have to be. And preaching, other things have to be done too. They're essential to engage our senses in various ways. But when we're chanting Hare Krishna, we should just, Prabhupada said, just try to hear the name. Of course, there are the gradations here. Now, if you're thinking of your service, it's better than thinking of mundane things, that's for sure. Much better. We shouldn't use the japa period for planning our day or for, there'll be all spontaneous thoughts will come. Those spontaneous thoughts will come. And they can include services, which you may like to do. So you can't deny it. We're not on the denial platform either. So, but, it's somehow or another, we try to remember Krishna. Different other thoughts may come. There's some positive aspects, when you're chanting, sometimes a feeling of how fallen one is, or how wretched we are, horrible feelings we have towards others and so on. Sometimes we become very repentant and it's one of the stages we go through. We're not 100% going to be focused just on hearing the holy name. But we should be careful not to purposely think of other things. Other thoughts may come. We have to see what they are and how they're related. We should take full advantage of this opportunity. And when spontaneously thoughts come, many of them can be put aside till later. Some do is write them down and put them to the side in case they feel that they're important, they should be recorded. It's a bit of an interference, you could say. Try to minimize that. Don't have your mobile phone next to you when you chant japa. Or if you do, put it on, put it to sleep. That's the time when the mobile can sleep. Not we shouldn't sleep. The mobile can sleep. Put it to sleep. Don't wake it up either. Minimize. Chanting in a situation which is more favorable for remembering Krishna in the center. And it's true that there will be other thoughts will flow in that never stop flowing. They're like more rivers flowing into the ocean. But try to make sure that they help us to focus on Krishna, that they are for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna. So if we're thinking, my Lord, please engage me in your service. Chanting is service, don't forget. You're being engaged in service of the topmost order when you chant the holy name in that way already. Prabhupada said, just hear, chant, and hear. He said, what is the question of the mind? Many times devotees say, what do I do with my mind when I chant? Prabhupada said, what is the question of mind? Just chant and hear. Chant and hear. But we can't do that very easily, therefore sometimes some little aids are there, even meditating on the holy Dham or Giriraj Maharaj or the deities. You sit in front of the deities and just chant and look at the deities. Somehow or another, try to focus on Krishna. But try not to conjure up anything outside of, anything artificial, anything mechanical. Just try to hear the name and different thoughts will come, no doubt. And we just try to bring them back to Krishna. It's inevitable these things will happen in the neophyte stage. Prabhupada himself said that happened, because he had a whole movement to try to establish. Concerns with them. And when we chant, it can be related. You can't deny that. We're chanting, we're just almost desperate. We have service to do, please, my Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. May I be sincere in the performance of this service. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Those thoughts may come. Or thoughts may come of, being repentant for one's ill attitude or whatever. They come purifying. They're purifying us. And Krishna's reciprocating. Hare Krishna. But don't try to make that a standard. Don't try to force that, I'm just going to think about my service while I chant japa. Try to hear the name. And thoughts may come. Don't make it a mechanical thing. And then, that thought may come, okay, and then you try to hear the holy name. Like that. Try to hear the holy name. Everything favorable will come. If you sincerely try to hear the holy name. There may be some dirt coming up. When you're cleaning a room, dirt comes up. But we don't embrace the dirt. We embrace the holy name. Interesting topic. Okay, I'm going to finish there. We have a lot to do today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mantraya Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. Haribo. Hare Krishna. You have to, you may